City of Stevens Point Bicycle and Pedestrian Street Safety Meeting, recorded July 8, 2021. Commission.
I call this meeting of the Stevens Point Bicycle and Pedestrian Street Safety Commission to order. First issue is roll call.
O'Mara.
Here.
Fahrenbrock is excused. Cole.
Here.
Frostman is absent. Leek.
Here.
And Finn.
Here.
All right, we got a quorum.
Persons who wish to address the commission for up to 3 minutes on a non-agenda item may do so now. Do we have anyone that raising their hand on Zoom?
You know, I might just bring a topic up. Because Marshfield Clinic out there, they're expanding. And I did have to. I mean, I biked out there once and it was a little rough. I don't know, does anyone know if there are any plans to extend some sort of safe bicycle access to Marshfield Clinic outside of the freeway?
I'm not aware offhand, but that'd be a good question for Scott when he comes back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was just something my kid was using my car, so I biked and I was like, oh, this is less than ideal.
Sure.
So.
I have a question in a similar vein, but with not everybody, all the staff people here. It has to do with Country Club Drive. I know that intersection is going to be fixed eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to include Country Club Drive up to where what we call new overpass is, what some of us townies call new overpass over the railroad track? Do you know if that is is going to be involved, putting bike lanes along there?
Yeah, specific design I'm not aware of. I know Director Badoon is working with the town of Hull. I think as of recently there was some communication with them, so
Yeah,
at least if there are any design concepts created, he would know.
But probably when they're working on that intersection, that they'll also fix that short stretch of Country Club Drive until we have the bike lanes on the overpass.
Sure.
That would be great.
Are there any other people have I have one. It's good to remind people that we do have a requirement in Stevens Point for people to get bicycle licenses. It's not overly expensive. It's $6 for a perpetual license as long as the bike exists and you own it. But what it does is if ever your bike would get stolen or abandoned, it makes it easier for the police to identify the bicycle so that they can return it to you. You can get the licenses at the police department. Okay, the next item 3 on the agenda is the June 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Street Safety Commission. I will entertain motions to approve the minutes.
I will move to approve the minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Now a discussion on how sidewalks are funded in the city of Stevens Point.
Okay, we'll kick it off to either Corey or Scott.
Okay. So, discussion about how sidewalks are funded. I know I saw this on your, I believe, strategic goals, that this is something that you wanted to look into in terms of how sidewalks are funded. Right now, sidewalks are funded with special assessments to the property owner, primarily for both the ongoing repair of sidewalks as well as for some of the sidewalk continuation projects that have happened over the last couple of years. And understand that there's the desire to look at, rather than special assessing the property owners, to simply include that with the overall property taxes. So basically, it would be included in the property tax rate and funded through the general city capital budget, the way that we fund roads and fund vehicles and facilities and everything else. And this is something that I know Director Badun and I have talked about in the past as well. A couple of things. I think, you've probably identified that certainly it will make sidewalks a lot more palatable for the property owners if they're not charged directly for them. And then from a staff perspective, thinking about all the work that goes into the special assessment process, which actually is not primarily my office, it's primarily, Department of Public Works, the engineering department, figuring out, whose sidewalk square belongs to who, and who owns which property, and compiling that whole list to build that out for the sidewalk repairs. And then also the city clerk's office has to send out all the billing notices and everything else. It is a lot of, I guess, work from the city staff perspective, and not that, these departments mind doing that, but it's just, sometimes you can use your employees for other things that might be a better use of their time. So if we would at least start to move in this direction of simply funding it with the general city capital budget, we do believe, at least Scott and I believe, that will be much easier administratively, that there will be a significant amount of city staff time that would be saved. Now, one of the issues that we're going to have is we do have a number of people who do finance their special assessments over a period of time. So you have all of those assessments that are still going to be outstanding. Plus you also have the city capital budget itself, and one of the directives that we've been given from city council is to limit property tax increases to no more than 2.5%. So trying to think of a way to spread that out. What we could do is simply work this into the capital budget over a period of 4 to 5 years to basically phase out the special assessment for sidewalks process. And then what that would do is essentially the impact on the tax levy, rather than having a tax rate increase at 2.5% a year, we could have an increase of 2.6%, so an extra 1/10%, and that would phase out the special assessments over about 4 to 5 years. So, and then, I don't know, Director Badun, if you have anything else to add on this, or?
I do, thank you. Just I guess really briefly, because I realize that a lot of people don't even understand exactly how the special assessment process necessarily works, and without others going into the details of it, I think both the residents as well as any of the commissioners and council members and even some of the staff with the city don't necessarily understand it. And a lot of people have the thought process that the entirety of the project is assessed, so it's a burden on those being assessed. And quite honestly, that's not the case. In fact, anyone that is getting assessed is getting one heck of a deal over the last, just had my sheet here, 3 years on, well, specifically sidewalk continuation. That's where things vary the most. More than half of the total cost for the projects was borne by the city. So only 30 to roughly 48% of the actual cost of the project were actually passed on through special assessments. So as much as we even want to do that, we also need to think about that. And as Corey mentioned, it's in part, it's already on our taxes. We're paying a part of it as a city, just the general public, to do that. So, from that position, switching the rest of it over isn't as big an increment as one might consider it to be. On the other hand, if people that have been assessed or will be in the next few years, however it moves on, would hopefully realize is that, they're not paying the full burden of that, and, they are getting quite the deal for that. When it comes to sidewalk repair, things are a little different. There's not as much other work that needs to be done, which is hard then to quantify and to assess to different property owners. as far as like the preparation work and some of the other things that did. So when you're replacing just a few squares, the vast majority of that, 90% of that is assessed directly to the property owners for a repair project in rough numbers. But just kind of wanted to go through how that was as well, because the other part of that is, where does that component that the city pays for, come from? And so far, since sidewalk continuation has only been going on for a few years, it's been coming out of the operating budget. And when it started, it was relatively small, and it very quickly grew. The last project we did take a hiatus this last year, but the most recent one was nearly $260,000, of which the city picked up $183,000. So that's a substantial hit on our operating budget, which prevents us from doing other things, attending to roads and other things that we normally do that people expect us to do. And we just need to decide what's the priority for how that money's spent, as well as in, the discussion we had is, should that sidewalk continuation, can it be moved to, a capital expense? I mean, they're sidewalks, they're durable, they're gonna last like roads stuff. It's something that we could borrow again and it would still be there at the end of that debt service. So it's that part of the overall discussion too that I think needs to be considered, or we need to really come to a consensus as to, if it's gonna continue the way it is, limiting what that spending is, so we're getting the benefits of sidewalk continuation, but limiting the overall impacts to our operating budget so that Public Works can continue to do the other things that people expect us to do. So I don't know if anyone has more specific questions, I can kind of get into it. The other, I think, somewhat interesting fact about it, and I otherwise tried to research it, is that our current procedure for our special assessments was something that was actually typed out in the 1980s. I don't even have a date on this particular one, but this is our special assessment procedure. It's got very nice graphics. I'm sure it probably took many, many hours back then to put together compared to what today would be. They did try, which I just found out very, very recently, there were some proposed revisions in 1990. However, there was, seemed, from what I've been told by staff, it was in concept of what it is, but then it became very difficult when they tried to practice how to get some of those assessments for things like tree removal and the preparation that they couldn't discern to specific entities. So never fully adopted, still using the I think someone said 81. I don't know if that's true, but definitely from seeing what it is, it's been around for quite a while, and it's still the policy that we otherwise follow to this day. So if there's any questions, I'll answer those, but that's kind of what I wanted to otherwise inform everyone of.
I was curious, okay, so that it's from 1981 or so you're just noting the age. There's no particular issue with that per se.
No. It's just whether it's been longstanding. I mean, you can look at it another way. If someone wants to say, well, geez, we really need to update it, the question becomes is exactly what would we change? I mean, sidewalk construction is the same today as it really was then. They use fancier equipment to do it, but it's still much the same labor and equipment that goes into it. But from the other side of it, it's a matter of that we've been consistently using that same policy for a long time. So anyone that's otherwise been assessed can't complain that they're being treated differently today than they were, because it's, I was that
40
big.
years ago.
Yes, so I think people have been treated consistently throughout, that because we've been following the same policy for a long time, and it's proven to work.
And when item number 4 says discussion how sidewalks are funded, and when we say sidewalk funding, we're talking about the continuation project and repairs.
And repairs, correct, yeah, it's those two components of what we otherwise.
It's not new sidewalks and new developments.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, so it'd otherwise be in existing established, areas where we're putting in the new sidewalks, the continuation study, because, that's otherwise others discussion as far as new developments and, whether they're required or not, and they are required unless they get Adam can speak more to that. As far as there are some instances where we may not require, but the standard thing is they need to prepare for sidewalks, so that would be a developer cost when the development goes in.
Well, I don't. Okay.
Any discussion? Well, I do have some. I've studied this for quite a while. On continuation and replacement, from a policy perspective, when you special assess those, the communities that most will need their sidewalks fixed also tend to be the communities with the lowest income, average income. And it becomes an environmental justice issue. And what'll happen is when you, I'm talking as an ex-alderman, when you say, well, we're going to go down the street, the sidewalk's in terrible shape, and if you look, the housing stock isn't in real red hot shape either, people come to the hearing and say they can't afford it. And they're not lying. And that puts the council in a bad shape, and I'm not saying they do it on purpose, but you avoid those deals. That's not what we should be doing. If we're thinking about public policy, we should be addressing those areas that really need it. And the ability to pay isn't parallel with the places that need it. And so I think that to put this on a general tax roll is the right idea. I think it would not be a bad idea for the continuation program to be funded on the capital budget. And the reason is it's a durable good, and at some point, we're gonna catch up on the continuation. We'll never catch up on the repair. And so it makes sense for the repair to be operating budget, but sidewalk continuation is a capital budget, and I think that that would make sense. Is there any other?
Well, the only other comment I have, adding to the capital budget, I'm sure you know that in the situation when a homeowner doesn't want a sidewalk anyway, it does go to some degree, it helps to bring them along,
Yes.
to say that it's gonna be free. So there's that too.
And some people in Stevens Point do get free sidewalks, and they're the people who live on connecting highways. When the sidewalk in front of my house, which is now Highway 66, and when it was done, it was Highway 10, that's included as part of the state project. And all of us got a home run. We didn't have to pay for a new sidewalk. And because that's the state policy, that when they do the road, they do the sidewalk. And so when you redo Division Street, none of those property owners would have, under our policy, would be specially assessed, and they all have the ability to pay. And so there are inequities inherent in our policy. Any more discussion? Any discussion on Zoom? We'll go to the next issue, a discussion on the bicycle-friendly business program.
All right, thank you, Chair. So as I mentioned in the agenda packet, the discussion about nominating or submitting applications for businesses here in the city as bike-friendly business has been ongoing for the last, I think, 6 months now or so. And so what staff's perspective is since our next deadline is October 1 for when these applications come in, now is that perfect opportunity to have a pretty robust discussion as to which businesses in your eyes would meet those criteria included in page 8 of the packet, in encouragement, engineering, education, and then the planning and evaluation section. So what I ask for each of you is to come up with at least 3 businesses that you feel meet some of those criteria that staff and whomever would like to volunteer of this commission to go out, interact with these businesses, and try to encourage them to ultimately submit an application. So I don't know if we want to start with the chair, if you had any
Sure.
comments?
I came up with 5 people I'd like to put the touch on. I think Farm Shed. I think Create Portage County. I think our 3 hospitals. I think the Stevens Point Area Co-op and the Assembly Shop. All of them provide parking. I know that Marshfield Clinic could do a little campaigning to make it easier to get there, but they do have a interest in people being active. And so those are the people I think that we should approach about being in it. some of the things on the deal we'll never get, but I would think that you're bicycle friendly. If at the very least you provide a secure and safe place to park your bicycle and promote bicycling, either for customers or your employees.
With Great Portage County not actually being I mean, do we think of them as a brick and mortar? They have an office, but how what's your thinking there? I wonder. I mean, I know
They have an office,
Yeah.
they have some employees,
Mhm.
and we want somebody that's going to promote
Well,
cycling
their-
through, and so they
Their
would.
wellness philosophy.
Yes, and so I would think that, and I think that's why I put them in there.
Yeah.
You know, we're thinking that we have to produce something out of iron or feed people something to be a business, and that's, or sell something, and that's not necessarily true.
Especially if, in the initial stages, if we're really, really gearing towards the promotion.
Yes.
Of it.
And I'll tell you some other ones that I left off, but certainly a law office is a business. And they really, they're sort of like Create Portage County if you really look at the way they're set up.
Oh, what was the second one you said? That is like Create Portage County?
I think that a law office would be a similar sort of organization.
Oh, a law.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, they're doing stuff, but I didn't put them on my list. They didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody else have any suggestions?
Probably just work down the line.
Okay.
I had Marshfield Clinic thinking about,
Yes.
they're on my mind. Just thinking in my neighborhood too, I thought, I bike a lot to Cops, or if it's not Cops anymore, whatever it's called.
Metro
Metro
Market.
Market, because that's in my neighborhood. And then I also bike a lot to Walgreens. They're okay though already, but maybe, I don't know if that would be something we put on. And I think they're in Park Ridge anyway, not sure. Technically, they're in Park Ridge, I think.
Well, there's one Walgreens that's in Stevens Point on South,
Yeah.
Business 51, South Church Street.
Those are the three I was thinking of, so.
Okay. Commissioner Finn?
I'm still kind of hung up on this idea of some, being actual places, some that we are, and I understand Great Portage County has the office, some that initially we might just include them or ask them to do it because we know they will promote it. The small businesses also, like the co-op and assembly, they are all about Stevens Point also, and they would take this as a point of encouragement to publicize it. And maybe for these first ones, that would be really important. It's a different mindset that I had initially when I was thinking about this of who to have. And I'm thinking of, Skyward. Where are some big places that people bike to? But the idea of having hospitals, a couple of real specific businesses, and some businesses that we know just promote that kind of lifestyle or that urban sense also of walking or biking where you should go. So this is a great list to work from, and I don't have any to add.
Okay. Commissioner Cole?
I was thinking of Skyward also, and, I agree hospitals would be a good addition. Like I said in the past meeting, where I work, we're a bicycle-friendly
Yeah.
business, and we have facilities for our employees to store their bikes inside. People who come to the shop, we were integral in, helping to get the Heartland Trail built back with the former owners of the hostel shop. you know, we encourage our employees to commute, and I know when I commute to work 3 to 4 days a week, depending on if I have to run around town a little bit more or less, I see a lot of people biking to Skyward. AIG is another big business also. You know, UWSP, but that's huge, so.
And they're separate, there's a separate
Yeah,
bike-friendly university.
Totally separate, right.
Okay. That's right, I forgot you mentioned Hostel Shop, and I think they are the epitome of a bicycle-friendly business, whereas these others have that seed.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a great,
But, you know, not just where I
First
work, but I know
round
PAPS
two.
promotes,
Yes.
you know.
but do we
community
want 2 bicycle shops? Is there a
Yeah.
limit? How many do we, when you said think of 3 or narrow it down to 3, is that because we should, or is that because we have to?
It was because he was
Or-
giving you an assignment and he wanted at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
3.
Oh, and so it's
At
not
least 3.
necessary that you
No.
want us to then come up with
No.
just 3?
No,
Oh,
no, it's
gotcha.
unlimited. If
Yeah.
you think
Oh, okay.
5, if you think 10, you know,
Total
the
of
sky's
all
the
of
limit.
us,
I
okay.
think all the bike shops in town
Yes.
are
Yes.
part of this, you
Yeah.
know, what we're trying to put
Gotcha.
together here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Trek, we have
Yeah,
Hostel
campus,
Shop,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Trek is in a weird part of town for being bicycle friendly.
But are they a bicycle-friendly business? I mean, see, that's where how these different perspectives of how you actually interpret that. And they are, and they promote, and they go to special events, and they have mechanics there, and you plan special things. So, yeah, it sort of means different things, which then, when we do hone it down to however many we're thinking of, we really have to pay attention to these things, who actually does these.
And maybe it's a different category for
Encouragement,
the bike
education,
shops,
Yeah,
of the way they
Because
are.
by their very definition, they promote bicycling.
Right.
Right.
And
That's
Right.
who they are.
We're
Right.
bike friendly, I mean, always,
It'd be terrible to go to a bike shop that didn't like them.
right.
but if you, and again, not to harp on create, but this is, because that's a sort of a vacuous sort of entity in a way. When you look at what do they do, are there shared bikes there that staff can use? Is there secure, convenient, high-quality bike parking? So that's under this engineering, so that's the more concrete. Do they, promote safety, bike safety skills, et cetera, et cetera? So that's where this really close look at what League of American Bicyclists, what they are looking for might discount some of these that we think of, because they're not gonna, they might meet one of these like really well, but,
But by your very definition, that when you're doing small business, you're not gonna have someone who's assigned to teach people safe biking. Just by definition, you're not gonna do it, but there are things you can do, and
right, and I was just picking at
Yeah.
these, but I was
No,
just
no, but
saying
I'm
how
just
many
saying that-
specific things, yeah.
I just think we say, these are people that promote biking in our community. I also didn't put in any of the hospitality industry, and we have some that have bike racks, and,
But it's not our designation, that's the problem. This is a national, this is,
no, but we can tell them
Yeah.
how we think,
yeah, that they might be meeting that, yeah.
well, what we think that they are promoting bicycling, and let them say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be part of, the second step is once we hone down this list, myself and whomever would like to volunteer to be the commission rep, so to speak, we would be the folks who would reach out to these businesses, describe a little bit about what the bike-friendly business application is, potentially find some more criteria that these specific businesses do meet, and then subsequently complete the application on their behalf. That would be the biggest point. I mean, I've looked at the application, it's been a few weeks now, but it is a pretty robust application, so,
Too.
The amount of engagement that we have with these businesses will go a long way, so we have the most accurate information included in that application. So, I guess, since I segued into it, is there anybody who would like to volunteer as the
Talk to
commission
you.
rep?
To talk to the businesses and stuff.
Yeah, to work with me and.
I wouldn't mind doing that unless either you or anybody else is gonna.
Sure.
Already volunteered, so.
There we go.
Yeah, but if I would have waited a half a second, would you have raised your hand?
Probably not.
Oh. How about you?
You know, one other thing
If I'd
that
waited a
isn't
half
on the
second, would you raise your
application,
I have more time after September.
of the people I put on,
I have the Boys and Girls Club of them.
Oh.
assembly, the co-op, are making deliveries by bicycle.
Sure.
You know, they didn't even think to put that on there, but
Right.
Yeah.
I think that that's a legitimate deal for us to put into our application.
Sure. No, that's fair, definitely. So yeah, so I guess myself, Commissioner Finn will get the ball rolling the next few weeks. Commissioner Finn, I'll reach out to you.
Okay. I'll wait for
probably
you to
next
reach.
week. And then we'll talk a little bit more about these businesses and try to work with some of these. So, no, this is exciting times. Exciting times. I'm glad that we have a pretty honed down list. So, I guess is there any other comments or discussion for this agenda item?
And then if any of us thinks of anything else, then we can just email you too, you know, like if
Yeah.
their business pops into our head.
Absolutely, or if
to
Commissioner
go on the
Fehrenbach, Commissioner Frostman, if they have any
Might think of
ideas,
something.
definitely.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is submission of a walk-friendly community application.
Yeah, so these are just, this one and the next updated, or the next agenda item is just staff updates, so just wanted to make it known that the application was submitted, I think about a month ago. Want to give a lot of kudos to Director Badoon's staff, Lindsay especially, for pulling a lot of the engineering data for that application. That similar to the bike-friendly business, the bike-friendly community application, it's a pretty robust application, so appreciative of all the work on that. And I think we'll find out our results early to mid-September, so that'll go a long way, and excited to see what happens. So I guess I can just jump to the next agenda topic, to the walking rolling audit for Plan 2022 street reconstruction. So, you know, just a reminder, that'll be taking place next month. I believe it's the 3rd week. I'm blanking on the exact date offhand, but
Yeah, I can check.
so what the schedule is that we'll meet here at 2 o'clock, probably for about half an hour or so. Then we'll go on recess to the specific area that will be meeting, which I'll give you that information in the next few weeks. But included in your agenda packet too was the tentative 22 street reconstruction plan. And I don't know if Director Badoon, if you wanted to speak, just given the intricacies with this.
Yeah, yes, I would. I guess, and I apologize, we're kind of in a little bit of flux between last year and this year. The areas we had always picked were, you know, largely selected, not just because of the pavement conditions and stuff like that, but largely influenced by some of the historical flooding that's happened within that area and trying to address those situations. So we were looking at that as potentially a 2-year or so project to address that. We were able to do that this year, although we're running into a few delays in that, especially getting materials still out of the whole COVID, and surprisingly, even the freezing that happened down in Texas, there are still factories still, you know, trying to rebound from the damage and all that's created from there. So production for many things are low. So we're in a little bit of flux as far as what we're going to be able to accomplish for next year, as well as that the cost of that infrastructure is put in has really hit the utilities hard. And so we're kind of trying to figure out how do we balance everything out, because we don't, you know, even utilities, they don't have an endless pot of money, and, you know, I don't think anyone wants to see utility bills to the extent of us continuing to go in the millions of dollars a year, especially for the stormwater. So what we have kind of laid out is, you know, all encompassing is definitely going to shrink, but at the moment I can't tell you exactly what it is, and I'll give you a little thought behind it, is that, you know, we're likely the dark colored area there on your map is the area that we're leaning towards, simply because it has less of that infrastructure sort of overall costs, and it gets us out of the area, because, and we've been letting people know, we, even from the very beginning, is to get all this infrastructure in the ground. You know, this year there is a chance, and with some of these delays that, you know, we anticipate could happen, that have happened, you know, it is possible, though we're not there yet, that this current year's project could roll into next year, and we don't want contractors stumbling over one another, one block off necessarily from each other, and doing that, and having the residents put up with that. So I apologize, so hopefully if everyone brings their walking shoes, we'll walk it all, and we'll take it all in and go from there. But I think, yeah, we'll probably want to start then on the darker colored areas and go there, because that's the most likely, I think, to otherwise happen. And we definitely always look forward to what comments we do get and incorporate those into what we do for the following year, so.
Any other comments or questions for this agenda item?
Just FYI, I mean, I've been in touch with the Y, but I need to get in touch with the right person at the Y to get the wheelchairs and the walkers, so I'm on top of it.
Okay, awesome.
There being no further business, we stand adjourned.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.